Yep, we're recording now. All right, so Crystal, thank you so much for jumping on this clubhouse room with me. We're also going to be recording this room for the sake of those who don't have iPhones, and I get a lot of requests from people always saying that they feel excluded when I host clubhouse rooms because they don't have iPhones, hence the recording. So the first question I wanted to ask you was basic question: what is branded content? Because when I hear the term branded content, I really just assume that it has to do with content around the brand name. I know that sounds very, very like rudimentary, but I feel like you have a better understanding of what it is because you're mentioning magazine and all that stuff. So what does branded content mean?
So for me, when I think about branded content, I think about, content that's written, that is created with the intent of establishing brand, a particular viewpoint. Um, and I think about it in terms of not just the brand name, but also content that um, captures the brand, captures the feeling that people associate with that particular brand and company. And, um, you know, I wouldn't consider myself a writer. I consider myself more like a general digital marketer, but I've worked with a lot of writers who have come from a magazine background or come from a branded content background, writing catalogs or whatever the content might be. And, I know that um, the shift between writing content for search engines versus writing content for brands can sometimes be intimidating, especially when when companies are relying on you as a writer to create content that's going to rank, right? So like you've been writing for so many years or whatever the case might be, and then suddenly an agency is like, yeah, we want you to write for our website, or we want you to write blogs for us. And so the writer is having to switch the mindset from writing for brand versus writing for SEO. So yeah, in my
Okay,
mind, it's really
okay,
just, it's content that's created with the intent of establishing brand. And that is what branded content is to me.
okay, because that was like the big confusion for me when I write content. I'm writing for maybe this SaaS business or this tech business. I never actually think about it from the viewpoint of somebody who is writing for offline users, maybe like magazines and all of that. And the fact that people who are writing catalogs or who are writing direct copy don't have to think about SEO because it's in email, it's physical copy. It's like hardcover stuff they can touch. And the fact that there is a shift when you're writing for online brands. So are you saying that the struggle they have is moving from writing those branded content that doesn't require SEO to writing content that requires SEO optimization?
Right. Yeah. So it's switching from suddenly they're writing content that has to be SEO friendly. Like it has to be written for search engines versus just people. Like you said, like if you're picking up, an Ulta catalog and you're looking at the lipsticks and it's saying like feisty, vivacious, bold red, like what it's talking about because you're looking at the lipstick section. And that can be created on a website, but you have to start thinking on top of that, like I have to actually write out the word lipstick on this page, or I have to write lipstick in the alt tags for the images or something. Like there has to be some sort of SEO element on this page for it to be read by search engines. So it's that
Eh,
switch. It's that switch between not really thinking more about the brand versus thinking about the brand and thinking about users.
okay. I think that example of lipstick really just explained it really well. Like when you're writing for SEO, you have to be thinking about topics that search engines will be um, using when you're crawling your site for words. So that actually makes a lot of sense. Actually, so why do you think that it's important for writers who create branded content to at least learn the basic elements of SEO when writing, even if they still work on branded content?
Right. I mean, it's important because, I mean, many reasons. Writing for brand is important because you're establishing, you know, who the company is to the potential, to the customer. And when you're writing with SEO, you're also starting to think about how can this be read online? How is this readable? And without thinking about that stuff, you're going to sacrifice the potential to create content that is ranking. So if that's your goal, you know, creating content to rank, then you need to begin with that in mind and start at the beginning thinking about what is the purpose of this. Okay, the purpose of this content is to rank for X, Y, and Z, versus if you're just writing for brand and you're not thinking about ranking for anything. I'm sorry, just give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. You need to go attend to your baby, right? Sorry guys. Krista has to go attend to her baby. She's a new mom. So what? Oh, are you back?
I'm back.
All right.
It's just
cool.
yeah.
Cool. Okay,
so yeah, so that's what I would say is
okay.
why it's important.
Okay, yeah. So I wanted to ask, like, what would be your best tips to someone who's just making that switch from writing branded content to writing SEO optimized content? What would be like the tips you would give them to start with for optimizing content for SEO, optimizing branded content for SEO?
I would definitely recommend taking some sort of course, either looking online for some courses. I think you have a content course that you're coming out with or something like that, right?
Yeah, but it's not writing. Mine is more on the strategy side.
Okay, so I would definitely look up, you know, what some courses on how SEO works. And I would also, you know, there's stuff on YouTube that you can look up. Start to learn how search engines work and how they crawl websites and how your content fits into that. And then I would also say start studying the search engine results pages. So start studying what results come up when you're writing, when you're searching for things. Start to pay attention to those results when you're shopping, when you're writing, when you're working with a client. And let's say you have a new client and, you know, it's the first time that you've really written content for SEO. Take a look at the search results pages for what you're trying to rank for and see what comes up, and start to really study how other writers who are ranking their content are ranking for their different keywords. And that will really, I mean, you really have to start reading those types of formats and just look at how they format their pages, look at how they create titles and meta descriptions, look at, you know, how many bulleted lists they have, how many numbered lists they have. Start to study the work that you're trying to emulate, really.
Yeah, that's like really good advice because, okay, oh, sorry, I thought I was speaking and I forgot to unmute myself. Okay, so this is really good advice because I would definitely advise anybody who is just starting out with SEO content to take a course. Like, there is a lot of information on the internet. Granted, there is tons of YouTube videos and all of other stuff, but most of them only scratch the surface. Like, after a while, it starts to sound very repetitive. If you really want to go in to creating content optimized for search, then I think you need to take a course, or you work in-house with a marketing agency. It's one of those two routes. And learning steps It's very, 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 very huge. Look at how I'm initiating all the berries there. Very huge. Like, if you look at search results and you open each of the top 5 pages ranking for a key phrase that you're trying to write for, then you start to see similarities among all of them. You see who is creating numbered lists. You start to see words that are recurring among their main headings, subheadings. You can even use a tool to scroll the page to see what they're using for out image text. This will really help you to be like, okay, I'm cutting through the race. I don't want to make any mistakes. I want to hit the nail on the head. And you never go wrong by using those who are already ranking on SEP as your guide. Like, it's like the first thing you should do. And I really like that tip on studying other writers who have written similar content. It's something I always do when I'm writing content. I look at the introduction. If it's a blog article or if it's a product page, I look at the first couple of lines and I'm looking at any similarities in words that are recurring, because those words are actually topic. And after a while, you can clearly see a pattern. And that pattern is that these are words that search engines are looking for to rank those pages. And if you see it across top 5, top 6, top 7, then that's a clue for you. But you can also automate that process by using a tool like Phrase or Software SEO to just pick up that keyword, slap it in there, and then they show you the list of topics that you should be including when you're writing that content. It doesn't matter if it's a product page, landing page, as long as the goal is for search engines to crawl that page, then you have to be thinking topics. You have to be thinking semantic words. You have to be thinking anything that Google bots will be looking for when they are crawling that page. Okay, Crystal, what about people who are established, who have been making that switch between writing branded content for magazines and also writing for web-based brands? What mistakes do you see them making regularly?
So usually if a writer has been working in both for a while, or they've made the switch and now they're doing more SEO focused content, sometimes the struggle is either creating content that there's really no purpose to it, or there's no connection from what the company might be about, and it's just like they're writing maybe a one-off blog piece that has nothing to do with the overall strategy, or is not serving a purpose. It's really for just kind of fluff. And because they're writing branded content in the past, they're seeing the purpose of it as establishing brand, and they're right about that. But there's also many ways to connect the branded content with the SEO content so that they're working together versus just creating fluff pieces. Something that I have seen though is, like, if you work with clients, sometimes clients they don't want to hear what you have to say. That sounds kind of bad, but they don't want to hear what you have to say sometimes. And so they just insist on you writing like something that is not really going to be for SEO purposes. But I think that's okay, as long as, you're communicating with the client why you might suggest another piece. But yeah, I would say that something I see the most is fluff pieces or fluff words that aren't really conveying what you're trying to tell the user. Like, it's still not clear what's the purpose of this website, what's the purpose of this blog, what are you trying to say? Sometimes you just have to say it. I mean, sometimes I've seen websites that don't mention the name of the company anywhere in the copy. It'll just be like a brand logo image at the top of the page, but then there's no actual, there's no brand name written out anywhere in the copy on the website. So, I mean, there's other ways that Google and other search engines are going to be able to understand that that website is for that particular brand name, but you should still be including the name of the brand and making it very clear what the website is about. And I do see websites all the time that don't have even that. They don't even say the name of the business on the website. So it's just stuff like that. It's just writing content that doesn't really serve a larger purpose, I would say.
Okay, this is very interesting because back when I was working in-house, kind of like, well, no, not kind of, we were a content mill, and we used to serve a lot of online magazines. And what basically they'll just say, pick a topic related to blah 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 and write on it. There was no strategy. Everybody
Right.
look at this website, what's the purpose of this website, find a topic from any competing magazine and just write on it. So it's definitely boils down to the fact that we had all of this. In fact, we're writing about around one content piece a day across 20 writers. So the websites will be loaded with a ton of content, but the domain authority will be low. Multiple is another statement. Most of the content pieces we'll be writing would not be ranking. Not very, very poor traffic. The traffic that will be coming in will be from paid ads. The goals for the website was not aligning with what we were doing. And because of that, it was just a failed experiment across board. And still yet, you still have a lot of brands still doing the same thing, creating content for the sake of creating content without any strategy, without saying, okay, this is what we do. How do we create content that shows us off as an authority, that shows people that this is actually what we do. We want to rank and own this keyword or this topic. They are not doing that, and that's a massive problem, because imagine how much money you waste paying writers to create content for you that doesn't achieve anything. I also like that point that you mentioned about no brand name, because it's a debate that we've been having secretly with some friends for a couple of weeks now. And it boils down to this: what is promotional content? Does mentioning the brand name in there look promotional if your goal is to inform? Does it seem like you're trying to promote a product or a service or something that just makes you come across as arrogant if you are mentioning your brand name when you're writing a content pieces? So that's the argument we've been having. Is it promotional? Should you leave the brand name out of it so that you just come across as purely informational?
Yeah, I think there's a way to do it that's not spammy and not just all about the brand. And when I was mentioning that, I was talking mainly about not seeing it on the regular website copy versus like landing page, well, not landing pages, but like blog content. But I still think that you need to make the ask. You know, what they say in sales is like, you need to make the ask. You need to ask for the sale. And whether that's, you know, you're trying to do a conversion where your conversion goal is like creating a email list where you're trying to get somebody to sign up for the emails, and that's the purpose of the content that you've just written, or it's to, you know, promote a sale that's happening, or it's to, you know, explore further content and push the user further down the funnel, or whatever your goal is, you have to make the sale. And you don't want to be super pushy about it, which is why I say to study how other brands do it, study the brands that do it really well, that you don't feel like they're selling you on anything. Study that, because that's kind of what you want to go in that same direction, where you're asking for the sale, but you're not saying I'm the only solution, or you're not coming across as, like you said, you know, arrogant or self-serving. But I mean, people are there for a reason. Like, they're looking for something. So help them find it and help them get to where they need to go. If they're looking for more information about a particular topic, I mean, you should say, here's our email. Sign up for our email. We have, you know, more tips about X, Y, and Z. And yeah, I would say that's my answer.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I remember it's very weird that a lot of what I've learned about writing content has come from clients. I mostly work with digital marketers, content folks, and SEO people. So almost everything I've learned about creating content has come from them. And proud to this particular client I was working with, he's Australian. We never used to include the brand name when we're writing the content piece. We just kept it purely informational. There was no point in the article or in the content where we were putting the client's value proposition. Now this guy comes in and he's like, okay, when you're talking about a problem and you are discussing the solutions, then I want you to insert the value proposition and say, this is the problem to this, but this is how brand X solves it. You write the problem, you give the solution generically, and then you go deeper by talking about how brand X solves that problem. That way, you're providing the information, you're including the brand name, but you're not coming off as salesy, you're coming off as informational in a way that positions that brand as the best choice for that solution. So it actually worked. Like I was surprised. I was seeing the conversion from blog posts. People were clicking links to go to sales pages directly from the blog post because of how we put it in there. So it's definitely something you can do. You can create branded content in form and still achieve your goals, but you have to be careful. I think that's something that to watch out for. You have to be careful that the acts you're making aligns with the content that the reader is on. If they are further down the funnel, then definitely the ask should be a sale or to a product page or to something. It always has to depend on where they are on the content funnel. And I think this is something that people who write branded content for magazines and hard copy publications struggle with, because what is the sale that they're asking for? What's the CTA that they're asking for? They really don't understand how the funnel works, which still boils back again to getting that SEO education, understanding how strategy works, so that you know what stage of the funnel the user is, you know how to insert your client's value proposition, insert that brand name, and then ask for that action at the end of it.
Yeah, like you said, I definitely think it has to be natural. It has to make sense. It has to serve the purpose of what that user is looking for. Otherwise, you are going to come across as spammy. You know, it's just like regular sales, going into a store and somebody trying to sell you something before you've even looked or had a chance to think or shop around, or, you know, it's the same thing as a pushy salesman. Like, you don't want to be a pushy salesman. So think about how you can add things into your content that's not going to seem super salesy, and it's just going to be more natural. You know, this is how we solve this problem, like you said. This is the offering that we have. This is an option that you can take. This is how other people use our product for this exact thing that we're talking about.
Awesome. If anybody has any question, this is the time to ask that question. If not, I am going to let Crystal go and hug her baby and be an awesome mama that she is. Crystal, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your knowledge about branded content. I will let you know when this goes live on YouTube, because that's when I'm going to be uploading all of the video content. And thank you to everyone who joined in the room.